On this episode of Game Shack, I attempt to put new vinyl graphics on my plain Arcade1up riser and change out the graphics on my Space Invaders cabinet. Coming up next. Hey everybody, it's JDV here for Evil Genius Entertainment in the Game Shack, and as promised, I'm going to attempt to add these graphics that I got from Gulf Coast Decals down in Florida. Sent me up this. I'll have a link down below where you can get these things. And he's not the only one. Of course, there are several people now that do third-party graphics for Arcade1up machines and risers. But he had a set that, to me, looked perfect for my Space Invaders, which I got from QVC for $200. So it did not have a riser with Space Invader graphics, and I really kind of wanted that. So I'm going to attempt to put graphics on both the kick plate, this panel, and all the way around on the riser. Now I've already gone ahead and did this plate, and you can kind of see here, I think you can kind of see just how it turns out pretty well. Very slick looking, very smooth, applied fairly easily. So this was what they recommend is you put a piece of tape down the middle, you peel it back, you peel it, you smooth it out, you pull off the tape, kind of reposition the tape, pull it back, and again, you pull off the backing paper and smooth it out. It was pretty easy for this one, but what I'm going to show you next is I'm going to try to do this kick plate. Let me get this kick plate out here. So that's actually a pretty sweet kick plate, but he has art that matches the riser to the kick plate, and it doesn't quite match this. But I didn't want to ruin this just in case I want it to go back to stock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it to the back side of this. So if I ever want to go back to stock, it shouldn't be a problem to do. Let me see if I can't find the bottom part of the riser. So here's this graphic that'll go here on the kick plate, and it is actually very similar to the one, but it's not exact. But what it will do is it's going to line up with this, which is going to go on the riser itself. So basically the little feet will line up with the little guy here. So they're pretty close, but this is a better match. So I'm going to go ahead and try it. I figure worst comes to worst, I can go ahead and just flip the riser around if it's hideous. All right, so I'm going to be doing the hardest part next, which is the kick plate, because I think if you mess this up, you're in a world of hurt. So let's just go ahead and see if I can't do this without messing it up too bad. Figure out where this is going to have to go. The bottom doesn't matter so much, I don't think, but the top does. So just looking at that, looking at this, there's a little bit here that I'm going to have to trim, so I'm going to do that next. But I think as long as I'm like, if I'm right at the very top, I think basically this will match. If I line it up, oh, actually that's pretty good, I think. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this little bit off of here, and then I'm going to go ahead and try to do it. Just making very subtle trimming on it. Well, I don't think you have to do it, but I just want to make sure that depending on how I have the kick plate position, that there's not going to be this little bit of hangover. And you want to make sure this little notch is at the bottom. And if you have a black kick plate, you're absolutely going to have to count on that notch being right. Here it's easy because I have this art. So you can kind of see, hopefully here, that the art is very similar. Stock, it has this 40th year anniversary line. I mean, it looks great, but it won't match the kick plate. And this, I think, is close enough in spirit that it's going to work fine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead right now and line this up. But not on this, because I might want to go back to that someday. So I'm going to line it up on this. And I think it'll work just fine if I'm, again, it's not going to match perfectly on the sides because it has to slip into the grooves. So it's more important that you have it where you want it here. So this will give me a little bit of a hint. Okay, so if I go right up to there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it down the middle, start the top half first. So what I got here is just some painter's tape, masking tape. And I'm going to go ahead and put that right there. This is just going to hold it steady as I peel it back. So I'm going to try to even it up on the sides as best I can and make sure we're pretty even at the top. Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road here. So you're going to want to have your scissors ready, because what you're going to do, you're going to peel this back, and then you're going to cut off this white piece, and then slowly, methodically push the sticker part of it up. So first comes the peel. And it peels pretty easy. There's a good, I don't know, maybe 1/8 or 1/10 of an inch sort of border that you can pull back on. Now they recommend that you really clean this board down. It's pretty clean. Now you can see, maybe, there's like these little kind of divots. Those should go away as I push down inch by inch. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so this is maybe about 1/3. So I'm just going across. Oh, don't try not to break it. And you can pull back if it gets a little messed up. But where you're going to run into trouble is if it's really, really in there. So I'm just kind of using my thumb. You can buy a little wedgie, or you can use a little block of wood. I tried using a block of wood. It's just not as, you don't have as much control. So if you just take your time and just, I'm really trying to get all the air pockets out. And this is really stout vinyl right here. This doesn't feel like it's crumbling underneath my fingertips or the color's coming off or anything. It's very good quality stuff. So one other thing, he didn't pay me to write any of this. I just, I bought it off his website, I think on Etsy. I'll have a link below. But this is a legit review, people. All right, well, that looks pretty good already. Okay, so now I'm to this part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition this tape so that I can get to the little part that's underneath it. So I maybe should have gone a little bit further down with this center piece. So maybe start a little bit past the halfway point. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but sort of this is where the paper kind of starts. So I'm going to put it just on the other side of that, right about there. Oh, a little tiny air bubble. Okay. So you can see it wants to come up right away. And this vinyl is pretty thick, so it's really not wobbling around too bad. You can control it fairly easily. I'm actually surprised how much control you can get over it. And so I'm sort of starting in the center and working my way out. This is probably the most difficult part of it right here, is because I'm right dead in the middle. But it still seems to be happening. Again, just methodically, inch by inch, working it forward. It's kind of almost like working with clay in a way. You gotta really use your hands. Oop, got a little bit of a, so you can pull back a little bit, but not much. If you're committed too far into it, you're definitely going to be fighting it. Really don't rush it, because once you're done, you're done. You don't ever have to do this again. I only have 2 cabinets, and I'm only ever going to probably add another couple, just because based on space. So I have to be very selective about how I'm doing all of this stuff. I love the artwork on Space Invaders. I think it's great, and he's done a really good job of recreating it. All right. Let's kind of give it a once over here. Let's see how it looks. The moment of truth. So far, so good. And now for the kick plate. Now, of course, I have the game room lit up pretty well. Well, I'd say that is a pretty good match. Let's see. Not bad at all. So I'd say that's very, very good. So far, so good. Okay, so now I'm going to do the riser. So one of the things, of course, that if you own a riser, you know that it has this little divot here. And so if you applied this part here, you can kind of see how this graphic matches up now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply flip this around to the back, because in the back, it's straight across. So again, it's sort of a similar thing. To line this thing up and then split it down the middle. Now, of course, your big hint is to make sure, because if you get confused, if you see your feet, this way's up. All right, so let's just go ahead and line it up. All right. I don't know if you can see this, but so there's this white edge that goes around all of these graphics. Ooh, Nelly. Peel it back as gently as you can. Then you go ahead and cut this. This doesn't have to be square or anything like that. You're going to have to push all of it down eventually. Okay. So again, just real methodically. The rectangular pieces, I think, go on a little easier than the purely square ones. Not quite sure why, but this seems a little easier than that kick plate. But of course, it's also a smaller surface area. All right, first half done. You might be able to see some of these little inconsistencies here, but I think these are all going to, they'll crumple right out. Just nudging it ever closer to the edge. Just taking the time to rumb out any little air pocket that you get. You can really put some friction on this and it doesn't melt the material, doesn't rip or stretch it out too badly. So I'm very pleased with the quality of this stock. As a side note, the package came equipped with these sort of border pieces that you can put on. I don't know that I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to do is make sure that when here's the front of the riser here. So I'm going to make sure that this piece here is as closely aligned with that front riser as I can get it. So I'm sort of basing everything off on lining it up with the front riser on this side, and then if I need to do anything different on this side, I will. But for right now, that's my theory. So I've finished the unit. I've put on new kick plate, new J plate, whatever they call this little angled piece, and 3 sides to the riser. All told, I think I spent about 90 minutes, not counting the time I had to spend messing about with the camera. I would highly advise that you do it in a place where you're going to have a little bit of me time. Don't do it if you have kids running around or guests over, anything like that, because you really do have to pay attention to detail. You really do have to smooth it out inch by inch by inch. But if you take your time, the results, in my mind, are spectacular. Okay, so what are my final grades for this decal kit for the Arcade1up riser Space Invaders machine from Gulf Coast Decals? Well, I'm going to give this thing a pretty solid A. If I was going to ding it for anything, it'd be because the graphics don't quite go out to the very edge of the kick plate. I think he imagined that these yellow strips would go there. I'm not going to put those yellow strips on. You could put them here on the tops of the riser. I'm not going to do that, I don't think, just because I think it breaks it up a little bit. But that's a fairly minor thing. The overall effect is spectacular. I saw how much did I spend on this. I think I spent around $50 on this, maybe $55, somewhere between $50 and $60. And again, I spent about $44, $48 with tax for the riser itself that I got at Walmart. So for about $100, I have a very professional looking riser with very professional looking graphics. And as it turns out, that's about what Arcade1up charges for their packages that have a riser that has the graphics on it. A couple of other notes. I got better at applying these decals as I went. So as I went along, I kind of let the material kind of put itself in and then kind of just patted it down. So I did get faster at doing this as I went along. And I can see that I might, if I ever pick up another unit that does not have graphics for the bottom, that I might use this same technique. To me, it works very well. It is a fairly good bang for buck. If you're going to go the route of doing this, it's something I would advise. There's also one other aspect to this that's kind of neat. I complained about it in my video about building this riser, see it here, and that is that there are several holes where the screws go in, and there's nothing that covers up those holes provided by Arcade1up. For the official Arcade1up risers, you'll have those same holes in that riser too with nothing to cover it up. So in a way, once you've done this, your riser actually might look just a tiny bit better than the official riser. So again, I'll give this thing an A, maybe an A- just because of that little detail there before. But honestly, the material was excellent. It got delivered here just as fast as the post office would deliver it. So I mean, he got it in the mail right away. So it's a big A for me for Gulf Coast. I keep saying East Coast. It's Gulf Coast Decals, and I'll have a link below. I've had this for, I want to say I've had these for maybe 3 weeks. I've been waiting to get time to do this video. And man, I wish I had done it sooner, because just looking at it like, wow, I mean, it is amazing what a a big effect it has, particularly if you're like me and you're only going to have 2 or 3 of these machines. Why not have them look as good as they can? All right, well anyway, so this was me applying for the first time third-party graphics to a Arcade1up machine analyzer. If you like this sort of content, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so you get more content like this. Love each other, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah! It's beautiful!
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.